In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. All praise is due to Allah. And we send our salutations and the peace and blessings to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and upon all the prophets who passed before him. We will continue to read in the chapter of the funerals. Yesterday we had started the part of the chapter that talks about escorting the funeral to the place of burial, correct? And it's quite amazing that when you look into this, that there's detailed teachings about everything that relates even to that small part of the funeral, as to how to escort and follow the funeral from the place it is first washed to the place it is buried. And this testifies to the comprehensiveness of the religion of Islam. We talked about that escorting the funeral to the place of burial is an obligation on the community, on the Muslim community. Whoever person who dies, someone in the community has to take this responsibility. Otherwise, the whole community would be at fault and at sin. And whoever follows the funeral, we talked about this before as well yesterday, whoever follows the funeral till it is escorted till it is receives the prayer, then he gets one portion of reward. Whoever follows the funeral till the prayer, then the burial, he gets two portions, and each portion is as huge as the mountain of Uhud in Medina. Then we talked about both men and women can follow the funeral, and that the Prophet, peace be upon him, recommended for the ladies not to follow, but he did not prohibit that. Do you know the reason that could be behind that? Why he recommended against?
Because women are more emotional.
Exactly. Because some women could be very emotional, and the funeral, as we will see later, it is recommended that people, ponder and try to take a lesson and be silent as much as possible, and just be concerned with prayer for the funeral and so on, for the person who is deceased. While some ladies could be emotional, and if that happens, it can disturb the whole atmosphere of this funeral, the atmosphere of the prayer and so on. The next point that is talked about in this book is that it is recommended that we try to transfer the funeral, the deceased person, to the place of burial in a hastily manner, without much delay. And even people who are walking in the procession, they should try to walk in a fast pace rather than a slow pace. There's a prophetic saying on this matter, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the companion. He said that the Messenger, peace be upon him, said, إذا وضعت الجنازة واحتملها الرجال على أعناقهم فإن كانت صالحة قالت قدموني وإن كانت غير صالحة قالت يا ويلها أين يذهبون بها يسمع صوتها كل شيء إلا الإنسان ولو سمعه صاعق. This prophetic saying is in the authentic book of Bukhari. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri says that the Messenger, peace be upon him, said, whenever the deceased person is lifted and carried towards the place of burial, if that person was a righteous person, he would, and that's of course in the spiritual world, we cannot hear it ourselves. He would say, hurry up, hurry up. He would actually be saying to the people, hurry up, I want to get to my destination as soon as possible. If it was the opposite, غير صالحة means, if this person was an evil or a sinful person, he would say, woe to me, where are you taking me? The Prophet, peace be upon him, says, everything that Allah created can hear that voice except the human being. He says, and if a human being would hear it, the human being would pass out. You follow? And do you know why this voice was hidden from the human being? Do you know why Allah allowed other creation to hear it but not the human being? What would be the wisdom behind that? Huh? Somebody said something? Not only because it's a test. If we hear every funeral saying that, It's no longer a test. The destination or the destiny and the outcome of evil doing and the outcome of good doing becomes something that is no longer hidden, because this is a life of test. You are commanded to do good and prohibited from doing evil, and you are warned about the evil consequences of evil doing, and you are given the glad tidings of the good consequences and ending of good doing, right? And these are things we have to believe in based on our evidence that is presented to us. But if it becomes something that we can actually perceive with our senses, it's no longer a test. If we were to see the fire of hell and to see the punishment in this life, it's no longer a test. You follow? And also, if we were to know and to hear and see what is happening to people after they leave this world, when they start actually facing, people start facing reckoning, either reward or punishment for their doing this life, not only after Day of Judgment. The verses are very clear that the reckoning and whether reward or punishment happens immediately after death. Immediately. You read the verse that says, "أخرجوا أنفسكم اليوم تجزون عذاب الهون." This verse talks to the disbelievers and the tyrants and evil people, that the angels would say to them, bring forth or bring out your souls. Today you will start getting punished. From today, from the first day, from the day of death. So if we were to hear that right away, then the test is over. It's no longer a test. You follow? Now. Then the next point is that where can people walk in front of the funeral or behind it, the deceased person, or on the sides?
Is that procession?
The procession.
Funeral procession.
Funeral procession, thank you. The funeral procession, do we walk on the sides or behind it or in front of it? All this is permissible. There's a saying by the companion Anas ibn Malik. He says, أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وأبا بكر وعمر كانوا يمشون أمام الجنازة وخلفه. He says that the Messenger, peace be upon him, and his followers, Abu Bakr and Umar, they used to walk either in front or behind the janazah. So there's nothing wrong with walking in front or behind. There's another saying narrated by Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. He said that the Messenger, peace be upon him, said, الراكب يسير خلف الجنازة والماشي يمشي خلفها وأمامها وعن يمينها وعن يسارها قريبا منها والطفل يصلى عليه ويدعى لوالديه بالمغفرة والرحمة. This is also an authentic hadith. The last two hadith, prophetic sayings, are documented and authenticated. Here, the Messenger, peace be upon him, said that whoever has a ride, like somebody in that time they either had maybe a camel or a donkey or maybe a horse. He says whoever has a ride should be behind. That is basically to allow other people who are walking to be around the funeral procession, to be around the deceased person who is being carried to their burial. So he says, وَالْمَاشِي يَمْشِي خَلْفَهُ وَأَمَامَهُ عَنْ يَمِينِهِ وَعَنْ يَسَارِهِ. While people who are walking, they are closer to the deceased person who is being carried. They can be on the right side, left side, in front or back. But here he recommended that if somebody has a ride, to be behind, to be delayed. You follow? Because if he was to be amongst them, it would create a danger and disturbance for the people because you never know what the animal may do, right? So that if somebody is riding an animal, he should be in the very back, And then he says, the deceased child should also receive the prayer. That's important because we know that the deceased child has not sinned at all, but still he is eligible for the prayer of the funeral. And you ask Allah for mercy and forgiveness for his parents, because we know for sure that the child has received the mercy of Allah. So that's guaranteed for any child who dies before the age of accountability. So there's no fear about the children about their final destination, where they will land. They will land in paradise, all the children. And I mentioned that to you before, that this applies to children of children of parents of all religions. Children of parents. And this principle that Islam considers every human soul born on what is called the fitrah, which is the natural disposition and inclination to goodness. And that is why whoever dies on this fitrah deserves to go to paradise. This natural, this unspoiled good nature of the human being, and that is only ruined by the deliberate evil sinning of a person after the age of accountability. After the age of accountability, which would be in Islam the age of puberty. Before that, a person, like a child, is basically remains on the pure nature that Allah created him on, regardless of what culture or religion this child belongs to. You follow? So we ask Allah with that. When we do the prayer for the child, we are making supplication for the sake of his parents. Also because those parents have lost a child, and that's a great loss in this life and a huge pain. So they are also deserving, just by the virtue of them being patient and enduring such disaster, they also deserve the blessing and mercy, and we also pray for that when that happens. The next part we will leave for the next class. We'll stop here.